Staying on the election, but moving off the gambling. We
Okay.
had two athlete interactions over the last week that were, I don't know, mildly interesting, or at least
Hmm.
interesting in the derivatives. Nick Bosa flashed a MAGA hat on after your 49ers defeated
My
the
49ers, yes.
Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. They were interviewing the stars of the game, Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Isaac Guerrero, and Nick Bosa comes by and flashes the MAGA hat. And then somebody like Kyle Shanahan probably got to him between then and the post game comments. He's like, shut it down. You're not
Mm.
talking about this now. And so then Bosa's like, well, I think it's an important issue, but I'm not going to talk about it. And everyone's like, well, you're a fucking pussy. Like, why aren't you talking
Mm.
about it if you flash the MAGA hat? It's like, it's pretty obvious somebody directly told him not to in between those two times. Because I think that if it were up to his volition, he would have gone on for 25 minutes about what he prefers in the
Oh, I don't
election.
know. I don't know. It might have come from him. That's sort of how he goes about things. He has that very monotone, well, I've pretty much said what I wanted to say. That that sort of thing. I don't know if he wanted to talk about it. I'm not sure. But yeah, there was that funny, I saw that. There was a lot of media critique afterwards that sounded a little to me like such terrible food in such small portions. The people who hated that he flashed the MAGA hat were then angry at him for not doing an 18-minute ode to Donald Trump and explaining it. And I found that to be rather amusing. I took their point, but I also felt like he made his point. What point did he make? He made, I'm supporting Donald Trump. That was the point he made. And if you want a deeper point from the guy you're paying over $30 million to do violence to quarterbacks, then I guess that's what you would have wanted. I don't necessarily need that. There's nothing that Nick Bosa is going to say about the election that's really going to alter how I view it or alter how I view public policy. I think it's notable because it's an instance of social proof. Social proof is a thing. He is saying, I am not afraid to support my guy, Donald Trump. I think a few years ago, players would have been scared or more scared to do that. People were projecting, I thought, onto him the awkwardness or onto the situation, the awkwardness of the teammates, because I saw people making these arguments, Niners fans, Niners media of, oh, Purdy and Kittle and Guerrero looked so uncomfortable. And then I
No, they
watched it and
didn't. They laughed.
they were all
They
smiling.
thought it
It's
was
just,
funny.
yeah, they thought it was funny. I probably, I mean, I'm guessing that at least two of the three are voting for Donald Trump would be my guess to put odds on it if people are voting at all. There's a lot of
If
Trump
there
support
were
in the NFL.
Kalshi odds about who Brock
Yeah.
Purdy's going to vote for.
Yeah, when he's on the John Deere tractor in the advertisements, I think we can guess. And it is this strange thing though in media. I think we're not even getting to the root of the whole thing, which is, and people were juxtaposing the Colin Kaepernick thing versus the Bosa thing. Both are their own things. I think you and I are in alignment in that we didn't have issues with either guy doing either thing, and we just proceeded with our lives. But there was a lot of, oh, you were angry about Kaepernick and saying shut up and dribble, which I don't think that was the phrase for that back then. But you were angry about that. Now you're cool with Bosa
Shut up
doing
and run
this.
for 40 yards on the Packers.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I look at it as in media, what Bosa did right there is highly controversial. It's just highly incendiary. It's a fringe thing to do. And it's also perhaps, according to some gambling markets, supporting the likely presidential winner. And that's the part I think. That's the tricky part about this whole conversation is that media regards Trump as beyond the pale. Many people listening will agree that he's beyond the pale. And we can all say that they've got their reasons for feeling that way, but they regard him that way. And they feel like they collectively should be able to make support for him taboo. And I think a lot of people are a little bit sick of it And the Bosa thing is an expression of people going, yeah, well, I feel that way anyway. Here's my white hat with the gold print that you can't read because, as Bomani Jones said, he's maybe not a TV professional. That's very hard to read on the screen. Somebody was able to see it, but it's hard to read.
Yeah. I'm not sure why he didn't go with the classic red and white. Maybe that's what the reporters should
Well,
ask him in the follow up.
well,
But
I agree
Nick,
with Bomani that
you had an invisible looking hat. Why you were trying to make a point? Why didn't you flash a hat that people can read? I'll hang up and
well,
listen.
I just pulled the hat that was kind of closest and wasn't really trying to make a big statement. I think people know, and that's the hat. I mean the whole MAGA hat thing. Bomani pointed out, and I had some mild disagreement with him, but I did agree that I wasn't aware until recently that they had the different colors of MAGA hat. They've colorwayed the MAGA hat. That was I thought it could only come in red.
Yeah, we're getting older. You miss some of the cultural apparel trends when you have kids.
When I was in Florida, when I was in Miami, people were walking around with the black MAGA hat. I guess that one's trendy now. I did not know. Because you know why, Ryan? Is you don't see it out here. You don't see anybody in that.
It's very rare. I did. Yeah. I was like minding my own business at a bagel shop like a week ago, and this like very Trump guy, like in like the 45 hat, comes in and he's like live streaming himself going and eating at the bagel restaurant, and I like wanted to figure out who he was because he like seemed like he had some type of audience. But I digress. Let's move on to LeBron, who if you had to guess who he was going to endorse, who would you guess?
It would have been interesting if he endorsed Trump. That would have been very unexpected. I saw it. It was a Kamala Harris endorsement that I believe started with a snippet of Tony Hinchcliffe doing the jokes at the MAGA MSG rally.
Yeah, I actually do. I didn't delve totally into the video, but what I gathered was it was like a bunch of, clips put together portraying Trump unflatteringly. And, Whitlock made an interesting point where this didn't get like a lot of pickup. Like they didn't discuss it at all on ESPN, whereas I feel like 4 or 8 years ago, it would have like been a discussion point on like some of their shows.
Yeah, I think it's a little late. I think that's what I would say. I think we haven't adjusted to the early voting era. And credit to Taylor Swift. She endorsed her candidate at a time when it could maximally help her candidate before people started voting. I don't know if everybody's adjusted to how the election is kind of more than half over or half over.
I think Taylor Swift has a lot more sway on her audience than LeBron has on people at this point. Like, is there one person who was on the fence is like, okay, well, I didn't know whether I was going to vote Trump or Kamala, but now because LeBron says so, I know where my decision is.
I'll go the other way. He's a little late. LeBron's a little late, but like Game 7 of the NBA Finals, trying to sneak up on Iguodala, he's charging hard right now, and he's doing something that the party has not been doing as well. Black turnout has been down, perhaps calamitously, in this early vote for the Democratic Party. Hinchcliffe said some jokes that were maybe more offensive in a Black American direction than in what he said about Puerto Rico, but for whatever reason, Puerto Rico was emphasized. In the clip LeBron shared, the part I'm talking about was excerpted. So maybe LeBron is trying to at least galvanize a population, a key constituency for the Democratic Party that appears so far not to have been showing up in an election that they need. And maybe, just maybe, it's part of the conversation that helps the party at the very last second when it needs a big push on election day that it has not gotten thus far through early voting. I don't know, Ryan. Am I making a good enough case?
You don't seem swayed. Me. I don't think he swayed one person.
You don't think he swayed one person?
Not
Well,
one.
he's at least employing a strategy that the party should have maybe been the party maybe should have focused a little bit more on how to boost turnout.